Have you ever wondered why some people work incredibly hard, yet their lives never really change? Why are there people who stay busy every single day, but the longer they live, the emptier they feel? And the scariest part is, what if most people don't fail because they lack ability, but because they never truly ask themselves what they really want? Have you ever sat alone at night and felt tired? Not the kind of tired your body feels, but the kind of exhaustion that comes from trying for too long, while still feeling like you're going nowhere. You wake up every morning, go to work, fulfill your responsibilities, try to be a good person. But deep inside, there's still a quiet voice asking, is this really the life I want? And then time keeps passing. Many people slowly get used to living small, used to postponing their dreams, used to limiting themselves so much, they no longer realize they're trapping themselves anymore. But let me ask you this. What if life is actually waiting for you to speak first? What if the problem was never that you're not talented enough, not lucky enough, or don't have enough opportunities? What if the real problem is that you've never truly asked life for what you want? Because there's a strange truth. Many people stand in front of an entire ocean of opportunity, yet spend their whole lives holding only a tiny spoon in their hands. Not because life has too little, but because they never believed they deserved more. And maybe that's exactly what's quietly happening to you. In this video, we're going to talk about a very simple principle, one that has changed the lives of many people. A principle that might make you rethink the way you think, the way you dream, and the way you live every day. And near the end of this video, there's something I truly believe that, if you fully understand it, you'll never look at your limitations the same way again. There's something I realized after many years of observing people. Most of us do not begin life with small dreams. When we are young, everyone once believed they could become something great. A child does not think about limitations. They don't ask themselves, am I good enough? Do I deserve it? What if I fail? They simply believe. Believe that life is wide open. Believe that the future still holds many beautiful things ahead. But then life begins to happen. People grow up surrounded by limiting words. Don't dream too big. Being stable is enough. What can someone like us really do? That's just how life is. And the strange thing is, no one kills your dreams in a single day. They die slowly. They die in the moments you wanted to try, but stopped yourself. They die in the moments you doubted yourself. They die in the days you accepted a life that didn't make you happy, simply because it was familiar. I once met a man who worked nearly 20 years in the same factory. He was hardworking, never lazy, never quit halfway through. Every morning he woke up at 5, went to work before the sun rose, came home after dark. Anyone looking at him would say, he's a responsible man, and that was true. But one evening, while we were talking together in the parking lot after work, he said something I've never forgotten. He said, I don't know what I want anymore. It wasn't that he lacked ability. It wasn't that life had never given him opportunities. It was that he had lived so long doing what he had to do that he forgot what he truly wanted to do. You see, that's how many people lose themselves. Not through one major event, but through days that no longer carry emotion. Day after day, month after month, until one day, they look back at their lives and realize they've been incredibly busy, but never truly alive. And the most dangerous part is that human beings can get used to anything. We get used to exhaustion, used to postponing happiness, used to telling ourselves, I'll deal with it later. But later is where many dreams go to die. Some people spend their entire youth just surviving, then spend the rest of their lives regretting it, because they never truly gave themselves permission to want more. They stand before life like someone standing before an ocean while holding only a tiny spoon in their hand. Not because the ocean has too little, but because they've lived in scarcity for so long, they no longer believe they can receive more. Do you know what the saddest part is? Many people don't realize they are limiting themselves. They call fear reality. They call giving up maturity. They call an unhappy life stability. And as the years pass, people slowly shrink their dreams to fit their fears. Like a bird trapped in a cage for too long, one day when the door finally opens, it no longer dares to fly. I believe many people out there are not truly failures. They've simply lived too long in an environment that made them forget who they could become. If every day you stay around people who have already given up on their dreams, you'll start believing giving up is normal. If every day you hear negativity, you'll slowly begin doubting your own abilities. And then one day, you stop asking life for something greater. You only ask for enough to survive, enough to feel safe, enough to avoid failure. But life does not change when people merely try to survive. Life begins to change when people dare to look directly at themselves and say, I want more than this. And then I realized the most important moment in a person's life is not when they earn more money. It's when they stop living vaguely. There is a moment that I believe almost everyone who changes their life has gone through. It's not the moment they make money, not when they become successful, and not when everything in life suddenly becomes perfect. It's the moment they sit down in complete silence and for the first time truly become honest with themselves. They begin asking, what kind of life do I really want to live? It sounds simple, but you would be surprised to know that most people have never truly asked themselves that question. They know what other people want from them, know what society expects, know what they must do to survive, but they do not know what makes their own soul feel alive. And that is why many people look fine on the outside, while feeling completely exhausted inside. I remember once meeting a man in his late 40s. He told me he had worked the same job for nearly half his life. Every month he received a paycheck. His family was stable. No one thought he was a failure. But then he slowly said something, I feel like I disappeared from my own life. I never forgot that look in his eyes. It was the look of someone who had spent too long living for responsibility, while forgetting that his soul also needed to live. And then he told me that one night he sat alone in the kitchen after everyone else had gone to sleep. No voices, no television, only the sound of the clock ticking in the dark house. He pulled out a blank sheet of paper, and for the first time in many years, he wrote down what he truly wanted. Not the most logical thing, not the safest thing, but what he genuinely wanted. He said that in that moment, something inside him woke up, not magic, but like someone who had walked through fog for too long, finally seeing a light in the distance. You see, people change when they begin looking at life with clarity, because the human mind is very strange. It cannot take you somewhere when even you do not know where you want to go. That's why many people work extremely hard, yet their lives remain unchanged. They have discipline, responsibility, effort, but no direction. Like a boat drifting in the middle of the ocean, rowing for years without a destination. And the heartbreaking part is, many people call that normal life. They wake up every day only to react to life, never truly creating it themselves. But everything begins to change when people start asking clearly. When you clearly state what you want, your mind begins to change. You begin noticing opportunities you once ignored. You begin meeting different kinds of people. You begin acting differently, even in small ways. That's why I've always believed. Life usually does not change in a single day, but a person's direction can change in a single moment of awareness. The moment they stop living vaguely. The moment they stop saying, I don't know, and begin saying, this is what I want. Maybe you haven't realized this yet.
But when you do not decide what kind of life you want to live,
life will decide for you. Other people will decide for you. Circumstances will decide for you. Fear will decide for you. And then years later, you wake up inside a life you never truly chose. That's why asking matters so much. Not because life always gives you everything you want, but because when you truly ask, you stop living like someone asleep. You begin waking up. You begin seeing your own potential. You begin feeling that the future is still open ahead of you. You begin remembering that life is far bigger than you once believed. And then I realized, what keeps most people average is not a lack of talent. It's that they never gave themselves permission to want something truly extraordinary. There's something I didn't understand until much later. Life does not lack opportunities the way we think it does. Life is not that stingy. What is truly rare are people who dare to believe they deserve a greater life. Because most people do not walk into life with confidence. They walk in with fear. Fear of failure. Fear of rejection, fear of hoping only to be disappointed again. And so they slowly begin living smaller. At first, they simply don't dare try something bigger. Then they stop daring to dream big. And eventually, they no longer dare expect anything from life at all. They still live, still work, still laugh and talk. But deep inside, they have stopped believing that good things can happen to them. That is the thing that breaks my heart most when I look at so many people out there. I see incredibly intelligent people living full of doubt. Talented people constantly shrinking themselves. People with beautiful hearts who have never believed they could live a different life. And then one day, I understood an image I will never forget. Life is like the ocean, far wider than what you can see today. There's opportunity, there is love, there is change. There are doors you never imagined you would touch. But the strange thing is, many people stand before that entire ocean, holding only a tiny spoon in their hands. They ask very little from life, not because they don't want more, but because deep inside, they do not believe they can receive more. You see, people always act according to the level of what they believe they deserve. A person who believes they only deserve an ordinary life will sabotage opportunities whenever something good comes close. A person who does not believe in themselves will give up too soon. A person who has lived in disappointment for too long will begin calling hope dangerous. And then they imprison themselves inside a small life, even though the door was never locked. I once knew a man who always said he wanted to change his life. He said it for many years. But every time an opportunity appeared, he stepped back. When there was a chance to start a new job, he feared failure. When there was a chance to learn something new, he said he was too old. When there was a chance to step outside his comfort zone, he chose to stay where he was. Until one day he admitted something deeply honest to me. He said, "I think what scares me most is not failure, but the possibility that I could actually succeed." That sentence left me silent for a very long time, because many people think they are afraid of failure. But in truth, they are afraid of becoming a greater version of themselves, afraid of stepping into a place they've never lived before, afraid of changing old ways of thinking, afraid of leaving behind the people who make them feel safe. So they return to the familiar life, even when it hurts them. Human beings often choose familiar pain over unfamiliar change. That is why many people spend their entire lives in the same place mentally, not because they cannot go further, but because they never believed they belonged there. But listen to me carefully, life does not respond to what you say out loud. It responds to what you deeply believe inside. If every day you wake up believing, "I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I can't change," then even if opportunities stand right in front of you, you still won't see them. Because the human mind always searches for evidence to confirm what it already believes. That is why asking is not only about saying what you want, it is an act of permission. Permission to want more, live bigger, hope again, believe again. And sometimes that is the hardest thing for a person who has been disappointed for too long. Some people do not lack the ability to change their lives. They are simply so exhausted that they no longer believe something good is still waiting for them ahead. But I believe this. All it takes is one moment where you truly wake up, one moment where you look directly at your life and say, "I do not want to live like this anymore." Everything can begin to change. Not instantly, but the direction of your life will never be the same again. And then I realized something else. Many people want a better life, but they do not want to go through the season of planting. They want quick results. They want immediate change. They want life to respond tomorrow, even though today they have not changed anything. But life does not work that way. Nature does not work that way. You cannot plant seeds today, then stand in the middle of the field tomorrow morning asking, "Why hasn't the harvest come yet?" Everything in life has its season. There is a season for planting, a season for nurturing, a season for patience. And only then comes the season of harvest. But the problem is, most people give up during the season when nothing seems to be happening. That is the hardest part. The moment you begin changing yourself, but still see no results. The moment you become more disciplined, but life still looks the same. The moment you wake up earlier, read more books, think differently, but your finances still have not improved. That is when many people return to their old life. Because they think, maybe I can't really change after all. But listen to me carefully. Just because you cannot yet see the results does not mean the seeds are not growing beneath the ground. Some changes happen in silence, like a tree. For a very long time, you look at the ground and think nothing is happening. But underneath, the roots are quietly growing deeper. And if the roots are not strong enough, the tree will never survive future storms. Human beings are the same. There are seasons when life is preparing you for something greater, but you mistake it for being forgotten. You see other people succeeding faster, going further, becoming better, and you begin doubting your own journey. But the most dangerous thing is when people dig up the seed every day just to check whether it has grown yet. You cannot live like that. You cannot change today, then return to your old self tomorrow, and still ask why your life has not changed. Every great harvest requires time. I once knew a man who decided to change his life when he was nearly 50 years old. Many people laughed at him. They said, "At your age, what could possibly change now?" But he still began. Every day he read a few pages of a book. Every day he wrote down his goals. Every day he woke up a little earlier. Every day he tried to think bigger than the day before. No one thought it mattered. From the outside, nothing special seemed to be happening. But a few years later, his life was completely different. Not because some magical opportunity fell from the sky, but because small changes repeated consistently over time eventually transformed him into a different person. You see, success rarely comes from one huge decision. It comes from the small things most people underestimate. One better thought, one book, one disciplined hour, one refusal to procrastinate, one decision to continue, even when nobody notices. That is how people change their destiny, little by little. But modern society has made people impatient. They see other people's harvest, but they do not see the winters those people survived. No one sees the sleepless nights, the years of doubt, the failures, the moments they wanted to quit. People only see the harvest and forget that everyone once had to plant seeds in loneliness. That is why many people quit too soon. They want life to change, but they do not give themselves enough time to grow. And then I understood real discipline is not forcing yourself to suffer. Discipline is the ability to keep planting seeds, even when today you still cannot see a single field in bloom. That is the power of the people who eventually change their lives. They do not live based on temporary emotions. They understand that every single day they live, they are planting some kind of future. If you live vaguely today, you are planting seeds for a vague future. If you live negatively today, you are planting seeds for a heavy life. But if every day you patiently rebuild yourself, even just a little, then sooner or later, life will respond to that. Because life always has a harvest season. The only question is, what are you planting today for your future? And then after many years of observing life, I realized something very difficult to accept. What keeps people average is not a lack of talent. It is the environment they live in every day. You may carry a very big dream in your heart, but if every day you live around people who constantly say, "It's impossible, stop dreaming, life is harsh and realistic," then little by little you begin doubting yourself too. Human beings are stronger than they think, but they are also more easily influenced than they realize. You will begin speaking like the people around you, thinking like them, believing like them. And the most dangerous part is, you will begin accepting their limitations as if they were your own. I have seen many people give up not because they failed, but because they stayed too long in an environment that made them forget who they could become. There are places that slowly kill the human spirit, not with shouting, not with violence, but with mediocrity repeated every single day. Conversations without hope, people who constantly complain, people who gave up on their dreams long ago and want you to do the same so they can feel more comfortable. You see, when a person no longer believes in their own life, they often feel uncomfortable seeing someone else still holding on to hope. That is why so many people are made smaller by the environment around them. If an eagle grows up among chickens, it will begin believing it cannot fly high. Not because its wings are weak, but because its entire life it has never seen the sky from above. And I think that is exactly what is happening to many people. They do not lack the ability to live a greater life. They have simply never been around people who made them believe it was possible. I remember once meeting a very intelligent man. He had ideas, he had a strong work ethic. He even had a sincerity many successful people lack. But he lived around people who constantly talked about failure. Every time he wanted to start something new, they told him all the reasons it would never work. Every time he wanted to change, they reminded him of his age, the risks, and his past failures. Little by little, he stopped moving forward. Not because life closed the doors on him, but because he began locking himself from the inside. That is how environment affects people. Very quietly, it does not destroy your dreams in a single day. It simply makes you grow tired of believing in them. And then one day, you no longer ask life for something great. You only hope for enough to survive, enough to feel safe, enough to stop hurting more, but that is not how human beings were meant to live. Human beings were not created merely to endure life. We were born to grow, to discover our potential, to become more than our current version. But that will never happen if you continue living in an environment that constantly pulls you downward. There is a quote I have never forgotten. You rarely rise beyond the conversations you hear every day. Think about that. If every day all you hear is negativity, fear, blame, pessimism, then it becomes very difficult to keep light inside your mind. That is why I have always believed one of the most important decisions in life is choosing who is allowed near your mind. Not everyone deserves your energy. Not everyone should have a voice in your future. Some people enter your life and remind you that you are still capable of going very far. But others make you forget that. And sometimes, for life to change, you do not just need a new goal. You need a new environment for your soul. A place where dreams are not mocked, hope is not treated as naive, and growth does not make others uncomfortable, because even a good seed still needs the right soil. If you plant a healthy seed in land without sunlight, it will struggle to grow. Human beings are the same. That is why sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not work harder, but walk away from the things that are shrinking your soul day after day. And after all of that, I realized the thing that hurts many people most is not failure. It is losing the ability to believe in themselves. When we were children, we once believed everything was possible. A child does not spend too much time thinking about limitations. They do not sit for hours analyzing, am I good enough? Will I be rejected? Can I really do it? They simply move forward. They fall and get back up. They fail and try again. But the older people become, the more they learn how to doubt themselves. One failure, one moment of being looked down on, one betrayal, one moment life did not unfold the way they hoped, and slowly the heart begins building walls. At first it is only a little caution, then hesitation, and eventually People begin living without daring to believe too deeply in anything anymore. They call that maturity. But sometimes, what adults call being realistic is simply a heart exhausted from disappointment for too long. I have met incredibly talented people who constantly say, "I don't think I can do it." And the moment I hear them say that, I know the problem is not ability. The problem is belief, because people rarely rise beyond the image they carry of themselves. If deep inside you believe, "I am small, I am not good enough, I always fail," then unconsciously you will create a life that matches those beliefs. You will quit too early. You will doubt opportunities. You will fear stepping outside your comfort zone, not because you cannot fly high, but because you have grown used to looking at the sky from too low. And the saddest part is, many people do not realize they are living according to old beliefs created a very long time ago. A criticism from childhood, a failure at 20 years old, a relationship that wounded them, a season of poverty that made them believe, "I was not born for a better life." But listen to me carefully. The past may explain who you are today, but it does not have permission to decide who you become. You cannot spend your entire life living as a version of yourself created from old pain. At some point, you must decide, will you continue living according to old limitations, or begin believing that life still has more waiting for you? That is why I believe one of the most powerful things a human being can do is learn how to believe again, not in a naive way, not blindly, but the kind of belief held by someone who has walked through disappointment, yet still refuses to let their heart die. That is real strength. Anyone can hope when life is easy, but it takes enormous courage to still believe in tomorrow after years of life not going your way. I think that is the most beautiful thing about human beings. Not that we have never fallen, but that after everything, there are still people brave enough to stand up one more time. There are still people who, after years of failure, decide to try again. After years of living small, decide to dream big again. After years of doubting themselves, decide to believe they still have value. You know, maybe the most mature thing you will ever do is not learning how to doubt everything, but learning how to keep your faith in a world full of reasons to give up. Because life will always have winters. There will be moments when you try hard but still see no results. You give but receive nothing in return. You walk alone while nobody understands you, but do not let those winters convince you that life will always stay cold like that. Winter never lasts forever. No storm lasts forever. And no painful version of yourself is the final version. As long as you still believe, still hope, still keep moving forward, then life's not finished with you yet. And then I understood, what changes a person's life is not only a bigger goal, it is the moment they begin looking at themselves through different eyes. No longer as someone trapped, but as a person still capable of becoming far more than they are now. And perhaps that is where all true change really begins. Not when you earn more money, not when life becomes easier, but when you stop seeing yourself as powerless. Because many people spend their entire lives inside an invisible cage. That cage is not made of iron. It is built from old fears, old failures, old words, and limitations they have heard too many times, and over time, they begin living as though that cage were real. They no longer dare move forward, no longer dare try, no longer dare hope. Not because life locked them away, but because they locked themselves from the inside. But think about this. What would happen if you truly began believing in your potential? You stopped asking life for so little. You stopped living like someone expecting disappointment. What would happen if, starting today, you began living like someone who knows life still has so much waiting for them? I think most people do not need a miracle. They simply need to wake up. Wake up from a vague existence, from days spent surviving without emotion, from living smaller than their true potential. Because there is one thing I deeply believe: you were not born merely to pay bills and grow old full of regret. You were not born to watch other people's lives and ask, what if? No. Inside every human being is a greater version waiting to be awakened. A version that is stronger, braver, more disciplined, more authentic, but that version will never appear
if you continue living according to old limitations.
At some point, you must decide, will you continue living this familiar life or accept stepping into a new version of yourself? And I know that is terrifying. Change is always terrifying. Believing in yourself after many failures, terrifying. Hoping again after being hurt, terrifying. Starting over later in life, terrifying. But do you know what is even more terrifying? One day looking back at your life and realizing you could have become so much more. That is the real pain, not failure. But never truly living out the full potential God placed inside you. I want you to remember this. Life does not change simply because you wish for it. It changes when you become clear about what you want, dare to ask, dare to believe, dare to move forward, and keep moving, even when results do not appear immediately, because every great life begins with one very small moment. The moment a person decides, I will not live small anymore. And maybe that moment for you is today. Maybe today is the day you stop doubting yourself one more time. Stop living only to please everyone else. Stop accepting a life that slowly kills your soul. Maybe today is the day you begin living more intentionally, thinking bigger, believing bigger, and asking more from life, not because of greed, but because you understand you only get one life to live. And one day, when you look back on your journey, you will realize the thing that changed everything was not the moment life gave you an opportunity, but the moment you finally believed you deserved it. If this video touched you, hit like and subscribe so we can continue this journey together. And leave one short sentence in the comments. My life will not stop here, because sometimes one small decision today can completely change the direction of your life tomorrow. And always remember this: success is not something you chase, it is something you attract by the person you become.